Welcome to Mahogany Bay. This is the first edition. We've got some real treats in store. First, we'll visit Mount Dora, Florida for the annual Classic Boat Festival. It's the largest gathering of old boats and lovers of old boats on the East Coast. This year's show was the biggest and best ever. We're going to take a heart-pounding ride in Miss Columbia. It's a replica of one of the Grand Gold Cup race boats of the 20s. And we're going to check in on the progress of a couple of great restoration projects, and there's going to be a couple of surprises. Pull up a comfortable chair, a lemonade, let's step back in time here in Mahogany Bay. In the heart of the lake country in Central Florida, almost in the shadow of Orlando and Disney World, there's a little town where time seems to stand still, Mount Dora. For one weekend a year, if you love old boats, this is the place to be. All the great names are there. Chris Craft, Garwood, Hackercraft, Shepherd, Elko, Aristocraft, plus the one-of-a-kind and truly unique. In the midst of the miles of mahogany stands the centerpiece of the Mount Dora Festival, the historic Lakeside Inn.
Lakeside was founded in 1883, and the Edgerton family were the original owners, and they operated as a winter resort. They were open from November 1st through about the middle of April. Sometimes they'd go to Mother's Day. They'd close it up, they'd take their whole staff up to a hotel that they had in New Hampshire, and they would open that hotel and run that through the summer. So as the times progressed, probably the last 20 years, as Orlando grew and Disney arrived and people started moving this way, there was enough business, and Mount Dora kind of got on the map, even though most of the locals did not then and still don't want it on the map.
You're trying to keep this a secret? Is that what you're trying to tell us?
So we're open year-round now, and summers get better every year, albeit a little bit warm, but sitting out here in the middle of the lake isn't too bad of a way to survive.
This outstanding example is a 1936 22-foot Chris Craft Custom.
One of the things that I particularly like about this boat is that many of the Chris Crafts had caulking lines, as you can see, running along the boat that were done in white. And this one is done in a kind of a dark color so that it blends in with the mahogany finish of the boat. And then with the red interior, it makes a very pleasing thing to look at, I think.
There's a perception that the classics are for show only. What is your experience?
These boats are made to be used. The worst thing you can do to them is let them sit around. They need to be run, people need to see them, and people need to enjoy them. And lots of the people at the show will be offering rides to the public so that everybody can enjoy these beautiful old boats and what it was like years ago. These things, this boat easily carries 8 people. It's a displacement hull. It rides through the water. As you can see, it's relatively narrow. It's a very comfortable boat, and I certainly encourage people to come out and stand around, and sure enough, we'll ask you if you want to go for a ride.
This Hackercraft is defined as a classic boat, as is this Shepherd. Classics go from 1943 to 1968. Here we have antique Chris Crafts built before 1942. Before 1918, the category is historic. The Antique and Classic Boat Society was formed to define these categories. This historic 1903 Elko design will truly capture your heart.
Elko stands for the Electric Launch Company. Electric Boat was a division of Elko, and of course that's the people that currently build the nuclear submarines, Electric Boat Division of General Dynamics in Groton, Connecticut. But Elko, contrary to popular belief, I have quite a number of people say to me, well, I didn't have electric motors back then. Well, actually they did. The electric motors sort of filled the gap between the small steam engine steam launch or naphtha launches and the introduction of the explosion engine about 1902, 1901, somewhere around there, when small gasoline-powered internal combustion engines became available. Well, I always tell people it's the excellent sundown gin and tonic boat. I mean, this is civilized cruising. The boat is almost totally silent in operation. You just hear a faint hum of the electric motor running below the floorboards. It's tranquility at its finest. It's very calm, it's very stable. The first thing women notice is how quiet it is. They're used to their husbands driving around in big go boats, you know, with lots of noise and lots of smoke and all of the stuff that goes with internal combustion. You don't have that with an electric launch. It harkens back to the genteel days of boating at the turn of the century. By 1902, the Vanderbilts all owned Elkos. Tsar Nicholas of Russia had a boat built for him. In fact, there's a kind of an interesting story. The gig that was being built for Admiral Dewey's new battleship, the New York, was supposed to go to Admiral Dewey. The Tsar saw it when he was touring America, and he said, "I want that boat." And they said, "Well, this is going to someone else, Your Highness." And he said, "I don't care, I want that boat." And just like today, money talks, and he got the boat, and the Admiral had to wait another 6 or 8 months till they built a boat for him. This is built exactly the way they were in the old days. This is the last wood-hulled Elko to be built. This is a 1987 hull. The shear is all done in white oak. The gunnels are white oak. The ceiling is mahogany, and the soles are Douglas fir.
Chuck, say you're out on the lake and your batteries go dead. What do you do?
Well, that's one of the things that comes as a big surprise to people that aren't familiar with electric boats. They just assume that it goes for a couple of hours and then dies. This boat will run at normal cruise power, which is about 5.5 knots. It'll run 10 to 12 hours, and the recharge period is about 4 to 5 hours. Unlike a fuel-powered boat, like an internal combustion boat, when you run out of fuel, in this case batteries, it's like a bad flashlight. The boat just doesn't go dead in the water. It slows down like a flashlight becomes more dim as you go beyond the functioning point of the batteries. So that even if you were out in the middle of a cruise, you could still, you know, limp back to shore.
This year's show had over 180 boats in the water and on land. 40,000 enthusiasts over 3 days were exposed to every variety a boat show has to offer. The vendors of the flea market offered vintage hardware, old yachting magazines, collectible toy boats, old outboards, classic sportswear, and barbecue.
Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 motors to get one up and running, but the goal is to get one running.
Okay.
Just to let them set to look at. They do that in museums. But in this club, we try to make some noise with them.
Noise and run them and
have fun.
Aristocraft in the 50s was the largest manufacturer of outboard runabouts in the world, producing 300 boats a day.
I started my life into it because my father started building the boats after my grandfather retired from it, and hopefully someday I'll continue the tradition.
So it's a family business and you're going to carry the torch?
Yeah.
I understand you've been working on this boat that my hand is on for 4.5 years.
Correct.
And the hull originally was which model?
1956 torpedo inboard model.
Okay. And I know when I was 15 that I customized the boat I had, and I can see that you've customized this boat a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe would you tell me, what kind of wood did you use to do the deck?
These are all mahogany strips, some bleached and some just regular. And up on the front, we have a custom wood, all individual strippings. And
this looks like the old sign from the Aristocraft Flash.
it is.
Is that what it is?
It's the Aristocraft emblem under the name. It's the same as on the stickers and everywhere else. We went with the Honda Goldwing 1100cc engine.
You put a motorcycle engine in a boat?
Sure did.
Why?
Speed, you got different gear ratios for different like lake settings, so you could have low end and high end torque on it.
Will you show us the engine?
Sure.
Okay. God, this looks wonderful. I see you've got a complete pan and mounting foundation for the engine. Old boats are a great conduit, the glue, if you will, that binds friends and family. This father and son team just completed a 4-day cruise down the St. Johns River together in a 1911 Mullen, a memory of a lifetime.
Boat parts were far more advanced than car parts because there was no flat roads to run a car on. They were mud puddles, and whereas boats was a flat surface, the boats were far more advanced. The first car engines were out of boats. And then slowly as cars became more popular than boats, they switched around and the boat car stuff started going on to the boats. But the early cars were all boat parts. Horns, engines, steering wheels, because the water was flat and there was lots of it.
The Godfather is the oldest Chris craft in existence. Built in 1922, it still runs its original 90 horsepower, 8-cylinder OX5 airplane engine. There's some amazing history here at Mount Dora. Mahogany Bay will be right back with more Mount Dora and a ride you won't want to miss.